Okay, let's unpack this. Today, we're diving into the later Delhi Sultanate, the Tughlaqs, Sayyids, Lotus. It's a really complex period.
It absolutely is, a time of major shifts after the earlier dynasties.
We're looking at administration, economy, society, culture, the whole picture.
Right.
And our goal, to pull out those key insights, those aha moments from the sources. Not just what happened, but why it mattered. Get ready for some surprises.
Definitely. This later period, especially the Tughlaqs, marks a really critical turning point following those earlier, more consistently powerful rulers. Lots of challenges.
Speaking of challenges, let's jump right into the Tughlaqs. Muhammad Tughlaq. Now, here's where it gets really interesting, doesn't it? A controversial figure.
Oh, immensely so. He was brilliant, highly educated, full of grand ideas, but his experiments often ended in, well, disaster.
Like the capital transfer.
Exactly. Moving the capital from Delhi way down to Devagiri Jaladabad, he called it. That's, what, 1,500 kilometers?
Wow, that's not trivial.
Not at all. And despite efforts to make the move smooth, the journey itself, immense suffering, deaths. Both going there and coming back when he realized it wasn't working. Just more misery.
And the token currency. That sounds like a modern idea almost.
It does, in a way. He issued brass and copper coins, meant to have the same value as gold and silver.
Okay. How did that pan out?
Badly. Very badly. The problem was control. Goldsmiths could easily forge these coins in their own homes.
Oh, dear.
Yeah. So pretty soon, fake coins flooded the market, real gold and silver. It just vanished, hoarded away, trade completely collapsed, the treasury was emptied. It was a huge blow to the empire's prestige.
Aren't there massive military plans, too?
Right. Huge ambitions to conquer Persia, even China. He recruited this enormous army, paid them a whole year's salary up front.
A year's salary?
Uh-huh. But the expeditions never really materialized. They were abandoned. So another massive drain on the treasury with nothing to show for it.
So you have this highly intelligent, educated ruler, but his grand plans consistently fail. How do historians make sense of that? It seems like such a contradiction.
It really is a paradox. Sources praise his morality, his incredible knowledge, but as a ruler, his practical judgment seems, well, lacking.
So different interpretations.
Absolutely. You have Elphinstone hinting at some degree of insanity. Then Ibn Battuta, who knew him, called him a mixture of opposites, cruel one moment, kind the next.
Complex.
Dr. Ishwari Prasad called him an amazing compound of contradictions. But then you have Dr. Agha Mahdi Hussain arguing he was just way ahead of his time.
Ahead of his time.
Yeah, the idea being that his policies failed because the people were too backward and prejudiced to understand or implement them properly.
Interesting. So genius or folly? Or maybe both?
It's debatable, but the result isn't. His policies definitely sped up the Sultanate's disintegration. The vast kingdom he inherited, it was much smaller when he died. It's a stark lesson, really.
It really is. Vision needs practicality, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, so after Muhammad, his cousin Firoz Shah Tughlaq takes over in 1351. Very different style, I gather.
Completely different. Firoz inherited a shaky empire. He wasn't a great military leader, lacked that kind of driving ambition for conquest.
So what was his approach?
Appeasement, really. He focused on consolidating power by keeping the army, the nobles, and the ulema, the religious scholars, happy, sharing power.
And focusing internally.
Yes, his reign was about peace. Lots of public works, repairing old canals, digging new ones, building towns, forts, trying to stabilize things.
Sounds sensible after the previous chaos. He also emphasized religion more.
Very much so. He presented himself as a true Muslim king, followed Islamic law strictly, reduced taxes to the level sanctioned by holy law. It was about restoring legitimacy.
Okay, focusing on welfare, stability, religious law. Sounds positive. But was there a downside, a cost to this approach?
There definitely was. That strict adherence to Islamic law. It included imposing the jizya tax on non-Muslims.
The poll tax.
Yes. And the sources say this really turned his Hindi subjects against him, created significant resentment.
So stability for some came at the cost of alienating others.
Pretty much. On the other hand, he was a great patron of learning, wrote his own autobiography, built madrasas. That one at Haus Khas in Delhi was supposedly huge, world-class for Islamic learning. Supported historians like Barney and Afif.
Okay, but was there a blind spot, something overlooked?
A critical one. Defense. Specifically the northwest frontier. It was neglected during his reign.
And that's never good news for Delhi, is it?
Never. It left the door wide open.
Leading to?
Timur the Lame. 10 years after Firoz died, 1398 AD, he invades.
And the Sultanate's response?
Almost non-existent. Sultan Nasruddin Mahmud Tughlaq offered no real resistance. Timur just walked in, captured Delhi.
And it was brutal.
Horrific, a general plunder and massacre that lasted, the sources say, several days, just devastating. He sacked other cities, too, on his way out.
Did he want to rule India?
No, interestingly, he wasn't interested in staying. But his invasion, it basically finished off the Tughlaq kingdom, just shattered it.
A complete dissolution.
Exactly. You know, there's that story about Timur the Lame and the blind mendicant, Daulat.
Oh, tell me.
Well, Timur apparently joked, "Can Daulat," which means wealth, be blind? And the mendicant supposedly shot back, "Had Daulat not been blind, how could a lame person like you have gathered so much?"
Huh. That's sharp. Takes guts to say that to Timur.
It does. Shows a bit of wit amidst the tragedy. But yeah, Timur's raid was the nail in the coffin for the Tughlaqs.
So the Tughlaqs crumble. What comes next? The Sayyid dynasty. Sounds less impactful.
Much less. They ruled from 1414 to 1451, founded by Khizr Khan, who was Timur's governor.
Was he any good?
The most capable of them, yes, but even his reign had no striking success. His successors, plagued by rebellions, conspiracies, their actual power barely stretched beyond Delhi.
So a holding pattern almost. Decline.
Pretty much. Sources like Tariq-i-Mubarak Shahi tell us about the period, but honestly, the Sayyids made no worthwhile contribution in any field. They show the fragmentation setting in.
Which sets the stage for the final dynasty of the Sultanate.
The Lodis.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
The Lodis, an Afghan dynasty, starting with Balo Lodi in 1451, he was clever. Knew he needed the Afghan nobles on side.
How did he manage that?
Gifts, land grants, jagirs. Kept them loyal. He also had some military success. Brought Jaunpur back under control, dealt with Gwalior, restored a bit of authority.
Okay, some consolidation then. What about his successor, Sikandar Lodi? He's often rated higher, isn't he?
He is, often called the greatest of the Lodi kings, ruled 1489 to 1517. He was effective in suppressing rebellions, and he made a really key strategic move.
Which was?
Moving the capital from Delhi to Agra.
Agra. Why Agra?
Better control over the eastern regions, Rajasthan, Malwa. It was a smart move administratively. Also, apparently, goods were cheap during his reign, economic stability.
Sounds positive, but wasn't there a darker side? Oh, definitely. Sikandar Lodi was known for his religious bigotry. Openly hostile to Hindus, destroyed temples, reimposed the jizya tax with severity, a very harsh policy.
Right, so administrative success mixed with religious intolerance.
A common theme, unfortunately. Then came the last Lodi, Ibrahim, 1517 to 1526.
What's his story?
He had one big win capturing Gwalior fortress, but then got crushed by Rana Sanga of Mewar. His bigger problem, though, was his own nobles.
Alienated them.
Big time. He was arrogant, distrustful. The Afghan and Turkish nobles were deeply unhappy, especially Daulat Khan Lodi, the governor of Punjab.
And what did Daulat Khan do?
He did something drastic. He invited Babur, the ruler of Kabul, to come and invade India to overthrow Ibrahim.
Wow, an invitation to invade your own kingdom.
Desperate times. And that invitation, of course, changed everything.
The First Battle of Panipat, 1526.
That's the one. Babur, with his cannons and cavalry tactics, met Ibrahim Lodi.
And the result?
Babur won, decisively. Ibrahim Lodi was killed on the battlefield. And just like that, the Delhi Sultanate was over.
And the Mughal Empire began. End of an era.
Truly the end of an era.
We've traced the rise and fall of these rulers, but let's dig into the structures underneath. How did the Sultanate actually function? The administration, the economy.
Okay, fundamentally, the administration was military and feudal.
Yeah.
And theocratic. The Sultan ruled in God's name. Islam was the state religion.
The Caliph's viceroy, sort of?
Exactly. They saw themselves that way. A key part of the system was the Iqta system.
Land grants instead of salaries.
Right. High-ranking officers got Iqta's land grants. They'd collect revenue, keep some for themselves and their troops, and send the surplus to the Sultan. It was crucial for paying the army and keeping the nobles happy.
And centrally, the Sultan was all-powerful.
Pretty much a despot, yeah. Chief executive, top judge, commander-in-chief. He had ministers, of course. The wazir, chief minister, finance head. The Diwani-Uri's army minister. The Qazi, chief justice.
How did they get revenue? Taxes.
Mainly 4 Islamic sanctioned taxes. Kharaj, land tax, usually 1/3 of the produce. Khams tax on war booty, most went to soldiers. Zakat, religious tax on Muslims. And jizya, that poll tax on non-Muslims, mainly Hindus.
Right. And the army must have been vital.
Huge. Cavalry, infantry, elephants. managed by the douaniers, but also supplemented by troops from the iqtidars, the guys holding the land grants.
How was it organized locally, below the central government?
It broke down into provinces, often run by a governor or sometimes local Hindu chiefs. Provinces were divided into shiks. Then Parganas Ibn Battuta said a pargana was about 100 villages, and right down at the bottom, the village itself, with its own council, panchayat, and accountant, patwari.
That gives a good sense of the structure. But what about the average person? What was life like economically?
Agriculture was king, the main job, the main source of income. Rulers like Firoz Tughlaq really invested in it. Canals, dams, wells.
Irrigation was key.
Absolutely. They used the Persian wheel, a mix of technologies. Ibn Battuta wrote about how fertile the land was: rice, sesame, sugarcane, cotton, loads of crops.
Was there much industry beyond farming?
Oh, yes, definitely. Flourishing industries, both urban and rural. Weaving was huge: wool, silk, embroidery, jewelry, metalwork, stone carving. They had karkhanas, workshops.
Karkhanas?
Yeah, like factories. There was a royal one in Delhi, supposedly employing 4,000 silk workers alone.
4,000, wow.
Yeah. Big centers were Delhi, Jaunpur, Lucknow, Kambat down in Gujarat. And trade was massive.
Trade with whom?
All over Central Asia, West Asia, East Africa, China, even Europe, the Malay Islands. Bengal was a major port for East Asia. They exported fine textiles, food grains, opium, indigo, imported horses crucial for the army, and luxury stuff like coral, porcelain, gold.
What about money itself? What coins did they use?
Common coins were the copper jedal and the silver tanka. The tanka, introduced by Iltutmish earlier, was actually the basis for the later Mughal rupee, and they used gold mohurs too.
So a complex economy. What about the social side? All these different groups: Turks, Persians, Afghans, local Indians. How did they mix?
It led to a big social shakeup. Generally, you had four main groups: the aristocracy, the priests, or ulema, town dwellers, and peasants. The rich lived incredibly luxurious lives.
And within the Muslim community?
Yeah.
Was it unified?
Not really. There was a clear hierarchy. The foreign Muslim aristocracy, Turks, Arabs, Persians saw themselves as superior. Indian converts were generally lower status. You had nobles, khans, maliks, emirs, then the ulema, then commoners.
And the Hindus, the vast majority.
Yes, the vast majority. Socially, they ranked lower, although some, like village headmen, shadaris, or wealthy merchants, could be quite prosperous. We talked about the jizya and temple destruction under some sultans.
All right.
But many rulers knew they needed Hindu cooperation to run the empire. So it was complex, not uniform persecution all the time.
Did the caste system change much?
The Hindu caste system remained pretty rigid. Brahmins respected, Shudras' position largely unchanged. And as I said, Muslims developed their own class distinctions too.
What about women's lives?
The purdah system, covering the face with a veil, became more common for both Muslim and upper caste Hindu women. And tragically, Rajput women practiced jauhar mass self-immolation in times of defeat. But in terms of dress, ornaments, there were similarities across communities for those who could afford them.
And religion itself. Islam was the state religion, but how did that play out with the huge Hindu majority?
It was a constant tension. Sultans were expected to uphold Islam. Some were zealous about conversion, destroyed temples. Others were more pragmatic.
So forced conversion wasn't necessarily the norm.
Not widespread or systematic generally.
Yeah.
Practicality and the sheer numbers often made it impossible, even if some rulers desired it. But things like the jizya tax and rules against intermarriage definitely created and maintained divisions between the communities. Integration was limited.
Despite those divisions, though, this period saw a lot of cultural blending, didn't it? Especially in literature and architecture.
Absolutely. That's perhaps the richest contribution. You see this amazing fusion. In literature, Persian was the court language, so it flourished. The star was Amir Khusro.
The parrot of India.
That's him, Tari Hind, an incredible poet and historian. What's fascinating is how he started using Hindi words and idioms in his Persian writing. He essentially created a new style, Hindustani.
A blend of the two languages.
Exactly. He's even credited with inventing the sitar, adapting the Indian veena, wrote famous works like Khazanul Futu. We also have Firoz Shah's autobiography, Futuhat-i Firoz Shahi.
What about literature in Indian languages?
Hindi literature definitely blossomed, often thanks to the Bhakti saints composing devotional songs and poems. Early poets like Chanbardai, Prithviraj Raso were important. And then there's Urdu.
Urdu emerged then.
Yes, it evolved as a spoken language, the camp language they called it, born from the day-to-day interaction between Persian speakers at court and Hindi speakers among the population. It uses the Persian script but has a very Indian soul.
That linguistic fusion is fascinating.
Hmm.
And architecture, you mentioned the Indo-Islamic style.
Right. This is where the blend is maybe most visible. You take Islamic architectural elements, pointed arches, domes, minarets, and combine them with Indian techniques and decorative styles.
Can you give us some examples we might still see today?
Sure. The Quwat ul Islam Mosque in Delhi, started by Qutbun Aibak. The Qutbi Minar itself, that incredible 73-meter tower. The Ali Darwaza Gateway. Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq's tomb. And later, the Lodi Gardens in Delhi are a fantastic example of Lodi architecture. You can really see the two traditions merging.
Amazing. Okay, we've looked at the Tughlaqs, Sayyids, Lodis individually. Let's try to connect this to the bigger picture. How do these later dynasties, especially the Tughlaqs, compare to the earlier, maybe more successful Khiljis?
It's a really stark contrast when you put them side by side. The Khiljis ruled for a shorter time but expanded the empire massively, right down into the south.
Right.
The Tughlaqs ruled the longest, but by the end, their empire had shrunk back mainly to the area around Delhi.
So expansion versus contraction.
Exactly. Khiljis generally brought stability, relative prosperity. The Tughlaqs, especially after Muhammad's chaotic reign, really struggled to maintain peace and prosperity.
And the rulers themselves. Alauddin Khilji versus Muhammad Tughlaq.
A classic comparison. Alauddin represents, ruthless success, effective control. Muhammad Tughlaq, despite his intellect, embodies ambitious failure.
So the Khilji period was an ascent, and the Tughlaq period marked the beginning of the end.
You could definitely see it that way. The Tughlaq era, with its internal strife and policy failures, set the stage for the disintegration that followed. Even the architecture reflects it. Khilji buildings often have this splendor, this grace. Tughlaq architecture can seem more austere, maybe reflecting their puritanical tastes or just the financial mess Muhammad left behind.
It really highlights how leadership and policy choices can change an empire's entire trajectory.
Absolutely. The Tughlaq period is just crucial for understanding why the Sultanate ultimately couldn't sustain itself.
What an incredible journey through this complex time. We've seen the ambition, the failures, the cultural blending. It's a really rich period.
It truly is. So much going on beneath the surface of just kings and battles.
It really makes you think about leadership, policy, how societies adapt or don't adapt.
Which perhaps leaves us with a question to ponder, doesn't it? How do the lessons from the Delhi Sultanate, these grand experiments, these successes and failures, the challenge of managing diversity, how do those lessons echo today, especially when leaders or societies try to implement big changes or pursue grand visions? How does that past resonate now?
That's a great question to leave our listeners with. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the later Delhi Sultanate. We hope you keep exploring these fascinating stories from history.